Welcome, I'm Watch Golem and I'm bringing you videos on watches, clocks and horology in general. So, customary wristwatch check. Today I'm wearing my SKJ, Seiko SKJ on my left wrist. Loving this one, needs a little bit of time. It's been too hot to go running, so it hasn't been getting much charge in it lately. And I'm still wearing my 6309 8000 because it's just an awesome watch. So, now, Casios. Who doesn't love a Casio? I mean, really, in the sort of early 80s, what kid didn't have a Casio watch with an alarm on to wake them up for school? I mean, what kid didn't sitting there trying to play, get the stopwatch to stop at exactly, on the zero for whatever is, oh no, sorry again, trying to get it to zero in. Now, I don't want to use the word cheap because that would be an insult to Casio. I'd say they were value for money, and they literally had something for absolutely, I can't do it, something for absolutely everybody. And I think they started making watches in 1974, and by 1980, although not this, they had brought out a calculator watch. I mean, that's just the awesomeness of Casio. Now, in the late 70s, Casio were looking at getting into the sort of sport market. They wanted their watches to be tougher, more water resistant, etc. You could buy a waterproof digital watch, sure, but they were more splash, rain resistant. You couldn't jump into a swimming pool with them or take them swimming or diving. There was a massive gap in the market. Now, Seiko had the Arni. The Arni was a sort of semi-dive analog quartz watch, but it was really, really expensive. But Casio went away and did some work, and they came out. Now, I'm never sure which is the very first one that came out, but they came out with a watch called the H101, and they put on it a little fish. Now, this is not an H101. This is a W24. And this is the fish. I'm going to move in, see if we can zoom in. There. That little fish, nicknamed a marlin, or even though it's a sunfish, made all the difference. What you need to understand is in the 80s, dive watches were actiony, adventure-y things and out of the reach of most people. Most people didn't wear a dive watch, they just wore normal watches. And then all of a sudden, Casio turned up. As a kid, I was walking down the street, there was a jeweler's, and in the jeweler's display was a tank full of water with about 4 Casios in it. A 30-meter water resistance watch, 50-meter water resistance, 100-meter water resistance, and 200 meters water resistance. It was amazing, and they had bubbles blowing through it just to emphasize the waterproofness of it. The watch I got was very similar to, if I can remember which one it was now, it's kind of like a forebearer of the F91W, but it was something like an F87. So very, very similar to this, but without the protectors around the buttons, and the stopwatch only went up to 1/10 of a second. I can't remember it. I've tried to find the watch. It's almost, unobtainable. It's something like an F84W. But the Marlins, these were just fantastic. I bought it. It was 30 meters water resistance. I did everything with it. I went canoeing with it, I went rock climbing, I went rain cycling, because it always rained when I cycled, and it took everything on. My previous digital watch, you couldn't even wear it in the rain. So that was a big jump forward. And the next watch I bought was this, the W24, and I think is one of the best looking watches ever. But let's look at some others. So H101, as far as I know, was the first one that came out as a Marlin. And then you've got this. This is a W450, and the W450, this is steel cased, has what I can only assume is one of the first bezel protectors, even though it doesn't sit above the crystal. These are quite rare, W450, fitted with the 248 module. And then you've got other watches. You've got, I'll just give this a quick clean. My wife has a go at me. This one, W750, again 248 module, very nice. And the 248 module has a lot going for it, because we understand is back in those days this type of information was not available on a watch, even on a Casio watch. And what they did was brilliant. When you go into another mode, whoops, screw that, very hard doing this. So in the stopwatch mode, the time is then displayed up in the top right corner. So you can leave it in that mode while you're doing whatever you want. Very handy for things like that. And also I find it really handy for the timer. 17 minutes is how long it takes to cook a pizza. And then you've got your alarm and then back. And of course you've got 24 hours at the touch of a button. Although today, of course, it's obviously 9:30 a.m. And these watches were fantastic. Date up there, and you've got your actual day of the week. I mean, that type of functionality was awesome. And this dial layout, or screen layout, I should say, was so successful. It carried over to the first G-Shocks, and you can see this layout on pretty much all the, G-Shocks watches of Casio moving forward. Such a good idea. So good, so clear, and they really hit the mark. I absolutely loved it. On my W24, this isn't the one I originally owned as a kid. I stupidly sold that. It was another one I got for my birthday a year or so back. But yeah, it's just brilliant. And what they did with the Marlins is the cases were made thicker. They put guards around the pushers, and instead of a plastic screen, you got glass. Which made it a lot tougher, a lot more scratch resistance. Sadly, it's not sapphire; it's only mineral, but still. And the W24, I think, is one of the best looking digital watches ever made. Even though this one, the W750, looks almost identical, but it isn't. And this is going to be really difficult to do with one hand, but I will succeed. It's just a bit more squashed up here. Here they spread it out. It just fits the dial perfectly. There is a steel version of the W24 called the W35A, but it just doesn't seem to have the same presence. It misses what I can only, hard to describe what these are. I don't know if you can even see them because they've worn away over the years. Trouble with the cases down here, little sort of divots, holes, make it look like screws, same as the W450 here, but it actually does have screws. But the W35 doesn't have it. Now the modules in these, and the modules, if you don't know what they are, they're always on the back of a Casio, typically up there. This one, hold on, zoom in. No, let's try over here. Too close. There we go, 248. And the 248 module is the one that I think is probably one of the best modules to have for a couple of reasons. Physically, it looks quite nice. Looks better than the later modules. And of course, it's got this functionality. There were other modules, the 168, I think. There's just a 288, and there are a whole heap of modules that have this similar functionality that came out at the same time. Why Casio do this, I don't know. But it's one of the things with Casios is so many variations. It's actually unbelievable. So you're sitting there wondering how, for example, trying to find a crystal for a Casio to replace this is virtually impossible. However, the modules, yeah, they go 248, 161, 548, 280 are all very similar in functionality. But the 248 and the later 548, which is in this W760, which sadly isn't a Marlin. There is a Marlin version of it. I told you that fish makes all the difference. It also makes all the difference in price. This has the 548 module. Very similar layout, but what these two watches have, and I haven't seen in other Casios, but I'm sure they're out there, is you can regulate them. They have trimmers inside them, and you can adjust the watches to speed them up, slow them down. Some people have claimed like 3 seconds a year, etc. I don't know how they do that, but I've got these to within 12 seconds a year. Now that does vary with obviously temperature and the drain on the battery. So when I first did it, this watch here was gaining half a second a year. That was with me working out its losses over 3 months and multiplying on a calculator. So I wasn't going to wait a whole year. But obviously that's changed. But this one's about 5 seconds a year. The 248s are about 12 seconds a year. And sorry, my 450 that's run 248 is a little bit runs a little faster, but they can be seriously accurate. There's a trimmer inside. I will do a video on how to adjust those later. But what awesome watches these are. Absolutely. And that fish, the Marlin, even though they do it later on the Duros, the analog version, but that Marlin, they only kept it for about 2 to 3 years. But this really stood out in the 80s because most digital watches were a lot slimmer and smaller. And these are sort of big chunky watches by the standards back then. And they really did. You saw the fish, you knew your watch was going to get wet. It was designed for action. And these are bargains, even though their prices are rising. I mean, steel cased Casio with a screw down case back. Brilliant. You can pick one of these up in okay condition, if you're lucky, 75, 80 pounds. You can get lucky with them. It's good to have all things working. The thing that can let them down a lot is no light. So make sure your backlight works. And there are no missing items on the screen. So my W450 is missing. It's very annoying, but I can live with it. Top left, when it goes to Wednesday, I get a UE instead of a WE because that part of the screen is missing. It's gone, but I can live with that. And also, if you look, what I find hilarious is the way the Marlin moves. So this is a W450. Marlin's pointing slightly upwards. Oops, no, that's a digital watch, a calculator watch. W24, Marlin is straight. W750 is pointing down. That Casio inconsistency is yeah, it's legendary. And if you look at the H101, which is a lovely watch, I will get one day, the Marlin is on the side here pointing upwards. So there you go. I mean, these watches are just 100 meters water resistance on the W760 and the W450. Same with the W760. Even though I say it isn't a Marlin, there's a Marlin version. I think it's called the W740 or something like that, or I can't remember. It's exactly the same watch, but with the fish on it, which is why I got this one half price. One with the Marlin is twice as much. So just remember that when you're out looking for watches. But yeah, 100 meters water resistant for these three here. Steel cased, screw down backs, and the W24 is 50 meters. Now, these come interestingly with two types of case backs. You can get this version that has 4 screws holding in, or you can get one with a snapback case, steel snapback case. That's the way they did it. And they did do slightly different screen colours. They did a yellow, sort of yellowy black version of these. Anyway, that's a quick one on the Casio Marlins. We've been into this for a while. So please like and subscribe, and I'm going to do a video on how to regulate these. See you in the next video.